Oh, this was bad. But before that, at the 15 over mark, the score was 125 for 3. There were 2 set batters at the crease. The ball was being smashed around. This was going exactly as planned. But at the start of the last 5 overs, there was a wicket, but still a set star at the crease. The following over, there was, well, another wicket and not too many more runs. The good times are now starting to get shaky at the very least.
This is the last lot. My dad told me to say this.
The following over, there is a boundary, then the set batter is out before another boundary at least gives some respite. Now the bowlers are in, and there is one more boundary and another wicket in the over. There will be a last boundary before there will be one more wicket. That is, no matter how you look at it, a massive collapse. And it means that in the last 5 overs, they only scored 5 for 36. The good news for those batters was that this occurred in the first innings. And so no one is going to remember that they fell apart. Because while Australia collapsed at the end of their knock, India did too. And that's what sticks in these sorts of games. It's not that 7 for 32 is that much worse than 5 for 36. It's just that one team won and the other one lost. The India collapse actually starts just before the 15th over when Jemimah Rodriguez is dismissed. At that point, India need 44 from 32. It should be noted that she was scoring at around a run a ball at the time, which is okay with Harmanpreet Kaur at the other end. But when you need 8 runs and over for victory, that's a little bit of a slight drain on the overall chase. If they both end up unbeaten, it probably doesn't matter. But when Rodriguez is out, that does open up an end. It also means that Pooja Vastrakar is sent in. That was probably a slight overreaction to how slow Rodriguez had been batting. Vastrakar has a career strike rate of 128, whereas Deepti Sharma, who could have come in, has one at 95. It's possible that this was always the case, or it was just a strike rate thing. And if you look at the histories when they've both been in T20 sides together, they quite often dovetail with each other. You're never quite sure which one's going to come in first. But Vastrakar gets stuck. She starts with 3 dots, finally hits a single, and is out on her 5th ball. With Harmanpreet in and Deepti moving down 1 place in the order, there is no need for India to panic. But next ball, Harmanpreet scoops a ball into her helmet and is caught by the keeper. That is the kind of wicket you often find in collapses like this. We tend to remember the mix-ups and early slows, but Harmanpreet was beating Australia very nearly on her own, and she middles the ball into her badge, and it somehow ends up with Alyssa Healy. And if you think about the 3 wickets we've described so far, Rodriguez was set and tried to find a boundary. Perfectly normal. Vastrakar ate up some balls and took on the spinner. That is what her strike rate suggests she should do. And then Harmanpreet played a decent shot that went a little bit wrong in the most unluckiest way possible. At this point, India have gone from completely in control to in all sorts of trouble. They actually get an incredibly handy over from Alana King, who delivers 6 runs in wides, allowing 13 in total. You could say that Alana King choked here, but again, no one's going to remember that. Her over is so bad that India's runs per over actually comes down, despite the fact that they only scored on 1s and 2s off the bat. The following over, there is a boundary when Talia McGrath gets her COVID-positive knee stuck in the turf and misses a simple stop. It's another gifted boundary from Australia, meaning that India now need 23 from 16. Sneh Rana's next ball, she pulls awkwardly to short fine, and it's called through by Deepti. But Rana never really runs. She kind of stutters down the pitch, and Australia have another wicket. Here, India seem to fudge with the batting lineup a little bit again. Yastika Bhatia is their keeper, but they instead send in Radha Yadav, who is a bowler. I look forward to the long read on this game from India's perspective to hear about why exactly this happened from everyone involved. But I assume this was a strike rate thing, because we know that Bhatia can bat. She bats up the order in Tests and ODI, but she's not a striker. LinkedIn is part of my online writing course because there are so many cricketers and coaches that are on there. But even outside of that, me and a fellow journalist used to play a game with LinkedIn where we tried to guess what job a former Shield player may have based on their playing style. Surprisingly, we were often wrong. You, however, can use LinkedIn for far more important reasons, like creating a job post in minutes. Add the hashtag hiring and off you go. You can try screening questions to find people with the right skills and experiences, because if you're a small business, well, LinkedIn is a large pond. So don't use this terrific platform to see what Graham Vimpani is up to since he's 100 against the West Indies. Instead, visit linkedin.com/Inca as in Inca, the back half of my podcast, Red Inca, and you can post a job ad for free. Terms and conditions to apply. So Jarrod is out there to watch the next ball as Deepti edges a ball past slip. They have lost a wicket in this over, but through 2 bits of luck, they also score 11 runs. Again, it's above the run rate required, which means that now they only need 17 from 12. Jarrod starts the following over by smashing a ball straight to mid-off and running. She loses out to a direct hit, and Yastika Bhatia finally comes out to bat as the wicket-keeping number 9. Deepti is at the striker's end, and there's finally a 4 that is struck perfectly as she charges down the wicket and smashes shoot back over her head for a boundary. Although even then it goes within an inch or 2 of being saved, and probably could have been. India need 13 off 10 at this point. With Deepti at the crease and a wicket-keeping batter top order player at number 9 with her, this is at least, what, a 40% chance of victory for India? Even with only 3 wickets in hand. But of course, Megan Shute is incredible, and she dismisses Deepti next ball. I mean, Shute is one of the great in-swing bowlers in the women's game. And I can think of one other, Anya Shrubsole. And why was I thinking of her? Because of what happened in the 2017 World Cup final where India collapsed there. Shrubsole took 6 for 46 and India lost 7 for 28. The easy thing, of course, is to say choking. But the other side of it is to wonder if India has enough quality batting down the order to begin with. You could argue this was similar to a lot of the South African men's team's losses that are now considered chokes, maybe outside the tie in 1999. And the tie in 1999 was essentially both teams choking or both teams making a lot of mistakes at the same time. And we've already talked about Alana King's over and what Australia did at the tail. There were certainly 2 teams out there feeling the pressure. Although, let's put the choking away for another time. But because Megan Shute's over is so incredible, it meant that India needed 11 runs after final 6 balls with 2 wickets in hand, and their specialist wicket-keeping batting at number 9 is still out there. First ball, Bhatia refuses a run as she hits the ball out to a sweeper. It's risky, but she's probably right in thinking that she has more chance of hitting 2 boundaries than her partner Meghna Singh does. Next ball, Bhatia finds the sweeper again, but this time she's probably thinking, well, she just has to run, and so she goes for 2. There is no 2, and Meghna seems to know this really early on. It would be interesting to know if they had any chat about coming back for 2, because Meghna Singh wasn't running like 2 was ever an option, and she's easily run out. So easily that on first glance, I wasn't even sure if they had crossed. Of course, none of that really matters much next ball when Bhatia was out sweeping, and Australia win the first ever women's Commonwealth gold. Sean Pollock would be so proud. But, just to go back, India needed 44 runs from 32 balls. And at that point, they lost 8 wickets for 32 runs. That sounds terrible. I mean, that is terrible. And it cost them a gold medal. But just think back to Australia for a minute. They are, based on recent form, not just the better team, but perhaps the best team that women's cricket has ever had, probably by a distance. They were batting with slightly less pressure in the first innings of a final. They had set batters, a long batting order, and in their last 5 overs, they added only 36 runs for 5 wickets. Sometimes in these games, the steam goes out of the ball and both teams struggle to hit it for boundaries at the end. In this particular case, I think the pressure just got to both teams. The real difference is probably the run-outs. But India needed the runs to win. Australia wasn't as desperate when they were batting in that first innings. And in the end, it was probably those run-outs that cost Commonwealth gold for India.